Every jungle guide says the same dang thing. Just full clear. Prioritize your camps and only gank when there's nothing left to do. Well, cool, man. Except apparently, when you try in your elo, your lanes just die and are pinging for help before you even finish your first clear. Meanwhile, the enemy junglers just perma-ganking, getting every lane ahead and tilting your team off the face of the planet. And sure, maybe you do get ahead in farm, maybe you do end up a level ahead, but without challenger level mechanics and decision making, it literally feels impossible to carry most games. So we figured, screw it, let's actually find out why advice like this just does not work for you, and ultimately learn what it really takes to climb. You guys asked for it, so we're delivering it. Welcome to our Diamond in 90 Days challenge, only this time, we're sending Zot into the jungle. And of course, who better to drag him through than Coach Hector himself. Now, those of you who followed our last challenge would know that Zot did, just barely, reach Diamond as an ADC in 83 days, while somehow playing like this. But jungle? Well, we all know that's a whole different ball game.
First of all, admit the jungle is a hard role.
Bro, jungle is so hard, man. Why is this role so hard, Jatu?
More decisions, more impact, and way more pressure. And this time, the stakes are even higher because we're putting one of the least mechanically gifted players we have ever seen, putting him on some of the most mechanically demanding junglers in the entire game. And the best part about it, you're going to be able to follow Zot's full journey to Diamond, every mistake, every lesson learned, and how he applies what he's taught in real games, as this video is just one piece of the full dang journey. As a skillcapped subscriber, you're going to gain complete access to the full in-depth lessons, VOD reviews, and even live coaching sessions. Everything Zot learns, you're going to learn it too. Plus, an extra bonus. You can already watch next week's episode and the lessons, plus every future release before anyone else. And you can try it all out completely risk-free, as if you don't rank up while actively using skillcapped, you're going to get your money back, no questions asked. And you can unlock all of this right now through the discount link you can only get through this link below. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below right now to get the rank that you have always wanted. All right, to kick this challenge off, Hector started by sending Zot straight into solo queue with one goal and one goal only. Exactly what every single guide tells you to do. Just focus on farming your camps and gank only when they're down or when it looks completely free. Now, bear with me here though, as this may seem a little obvious to a lot of you watching, but the reason every guide tells you to do this is because of a concept called expected value. Basically, each jungle camp is worth, on average, just slightly under 90 gold of guaranteed income, not to mention the experience that you gain. Whenever you go for a gank, yeah, it could be 300 gold for a kill, but that's not guaranteed. Even then, you might only get an assist, netting yourself just 150 gold. So let's just say that on average, a successful gank is worth 225 gold. But then, above all else, there's no guarantee that that gank even works. And if it doesn't, well, it really comes at a cost. The camps that you're yet to clear. In worst case, you get invaded and you lose them. But even if you don't, delaying your camps creates a ripple effect. You're clearing it later, delaying its respawn, desynching your camps, and just overall getting less gold and less experience as the game goes on. Hexadecimal over from skillcapped put together this really cool gold times probability equals expected value table that we're looking at, showing that for a gank to even break even with the gold that you'd make from farming just 2 camps, it'd need to have an 80% success rate, which is kind of crazy to think about, right? Truthfully so, all that math aside, the easiest and the simplest way to look at this is that ganking while you have camps alive is kind of like a laner roaming with a minion wave still in lane. But anyway, in his first few games, Zot went ahead and focused on these fundamentals. He would full clear, ensure he gets a scuttle, and then use that dead time to look for a quick gank if the opportunity presented itself, making sure to base in time to hit either his Krugs or Gromp respawn as close to 420 as possible, setting up for his next full clear perfectly. And once again, using that downtime after to fish for a gank top, unfortunately with no luck, before then thinking about resetting to grab his blue. Meanwhile, the enemy Warwick is just spam ganking and, in turn, breaking pretty much every fundamental in the entire book, and Zot even does a good job at punishing it, stealing Warwick's blue buff on spawn while he makes the mistake of showing bot. And then also just minutes after, taking the dragon and steals Warwick's red buff when he shows top. Zot was already up 4 camps and had practically his entire jungle to farm still. So obviously, Zot's doing pretty well and he went on to carry the game, right? No. Even with a massive farm lead, Zot was somehow still behind in levels, still behind in gold, and still behind in kills while his team just flamed him for just power farming, ending up getting completely jungle diffed by the spam ganking Warwick with every lane spiraling out of control and Zot falling further and further and further behind, and his team getting more and more tilted, and all of this culminating in him not even being able to enter his own jungle, and in the end, they get steamrolled in just 26 minutes. Who knew? Guess all y'all in the comments were right after all. But that's exactly why this problem is something Hector really wanted to focus on in his and Zot's very first lesson.
This is a really common concern that I hear from junglers all the time whenever they try to follow the advice to just constantly cycle their camps. Like Zot, you probably feel like you're not doing anything. You might be up like 5 camps, but your teammates keep getting ganked, all 3 of your lanes are now losing, you're not getting any objectives, and the game feels bad. But when you watch a challenger player follow their own advice, it just seems to work for them, right? You try to copy everything that they do, but the results are wildly different from yours. The reason why is really simple. Challengers are just so absurdly efficient at everything they do, from clearing their camps to buying items to making decisions, or even something super basic like clearing a ward. They're doing it faster than you are. Challenger junglers are just so efficient that they're not having to choose between farming and pressure. They're going to be doing both. On the other hand, you are probably way slower than you think you are. You shouldn't feel like you're having to choose between ganking or farming. If you're playing properly and you're playing fast, there isn't a decision. You're going to be doing everything on the map compared to other junglers in your elo.
And to really illustrate this point and hammer it home, and just how big of a difference just a few seconds here and there can really make, Hector came up with a rather tedious but extremely eye-popping exercise. He picked a random gold Nocturne jungle and counted every single second of wasted time over the course of 20 minutes. Things like clearing camp slowly, basing late, or just wasting time around pointless fights and pointless ganks. And it's crazy, absolutely insane, how many almost invisible mistakes really added up. And at the end of that 20 minutes, this gold Nocturne had wasted over 4 entire minutes. And it's honestly pretty wild to see the immediate repercussions of being slow or late to certain things. For example, how wasting a few extra seconds to hover around mid instead of just basing cost him his Krugs.
I personally don't like coming mid. I think I would have just already based, but he made the decision. That's fine. All right, he gets chunked here. It's kind of hard to help. After a certain point, you have to realize when you can no longer help. This is the point of the fight where you can no longer help, right? How do you ever reach Ari and there's a Viego in front of you? You're done. You're just standing here. He can't do anything. Now he has to blow flash. He starts recalling at 421 or 420. So it's 13 seconds. So at 407, he was here. He could have walked over here for like 3 seconds and recalled at 410. Instead, he recalled at 420. So he wasted 10 seconds. So that's kind of hard to do. Oh,
no, yeah, he's Maven.
Okay, waste of time. His Raptors aren't up, so Viego was just going to leave anyway. Now he's recalling at 435. So that's an extra 15 on top of the 10 he wasted, yeah. Now he might be at Krugs late, which are stolen. Viego just stole them. Great.
Or how wasting time in his jungle, clearing his blues slow, and doing grubs inefficiently led him to getting contested, getting one stolen, and then losing a team fight. But just seeing firsthand the domino effect it can really have on your games is definitely something every jungler needs to check out. And it's because of all this wasted time why in Hector's first lesson, he focused on the single most important skill that any jungler should learn in order to save time. The thing you do the most, optimizing your clear. And at the core of it, there are 3 fundamentals that we have to talk about here. None of which are complicated, but if you master them and combine them together, it's going to result in your jungle clear being faster than ever. First of which is tracking your damage numbers. So let's take Lee Sin's auto attacks as an example here. Each one does 62 damage to the red buff. And how the jungle pet works is that every time you hit a camp, your pet will then attack twice, hitting all nearby monsters. You can see this by the white number, which shows it does 20 damage. So each auto from Lee, plus the pet's 2 hits, gives us a total of 102 damage. Knowing these numbers is going to help you make simple decisions here. For instance, with the red buff sitting at 116 HP, we know one auto attack plus the pet's hits won't quite finish it, but it will get it low enough so that hitting the Krug will cause the pet's AoE to finish it off. And on the topic of your jungle pet here, Hector taught Zot this really small little trick to min-max its damage in their weekly VOD review.
Okay, you know how I said your pet procs twice off every auto attack?
Yeah.
Sometimes what you want to do when it's really low like this to save an auto attack is you want to let the pet proc like maybe once or twice, then auto again. Because if you auto, you only get 2 procs. But if you space out your autos, you'll maybe get like 4 procs. So here, you auto attack again immediately. So now you're only getting 2 procs, but you know your jungle pet does like 25 per proc. So you can see now you have to turn around and hit it again, which kind of sucks.
But anyway, as you level and gain more items, both your own and your pet's damage is going to increase. So for example, here at level 2, Lee's auto now does 65 damage and his pet hits for 25. With some quick maths, that's 115, meaning with the Raptor at 114 health, Lee can confidently leave after just 1 auto, knowing that his pet is going to finish it off. And don't even worry about spells and abilities just yet, as we're going to get into that shortly. But the next fundamental is where a ton of players really go wrong. It can save you countless time, and that's when it comes to playing around patience. You've probably heard it before, but it's still super important here. There are 2 key things that you have to watch out for. First, above every jungle camp's health bar, you're going to see this white bar. That is the patience meter. Second, when you're in combat with a camp, you're going to notice a faint circle around it. That is the leash range. The moment the camp steps outside that circle, the patience meter starts draining. And as a jungler, you want to maximize this as much as possible. If you ever watch a challenger clear their camps, you're going to rarely ever see them finishing off a camp while it's still inside the leash range. Instead, they always pull it to the very edge and finish it just before the patience runs out while moving towards where they're going next. Now on the other side of it, low elo junglers barely make use of it at all, which makes sense, as even misjudging and losing out on some small krugs kind of feels bad, let alone the absolute despair of resetting your entire camp. But the biggest tip of all here, and what's helped Zot the most when it comes to improving his clear, is knowing that it takes 4 whole seconds for the patience bar to drain, which, granted, I'll admit, with how fast it ticks down, definitely doesn't feel like that's the case in the moment. Now, if it isn't obvious though why leashing is so important, just simply walking from camp to camp in your jungle takes around 35 seconds. So by cutting down a few seconds between each camp, you can save a huge amount of time every single time you clear your jungle. And to put this all into perspective here, even if you only saved a measly 2 seconds per camp, that's 12 seconds per clear. Clear your jungle 10 times and bam, just like that, you save 2 whole minutes. 2 minutes you can then use to pressure lanes, secure objectives, or just be more efficient on the map overall. But going back, remember when we talked about the 3 key fundamentals to improving your clear? Well, this last one is the real trick behind how every challenger jungler approaches their clear. And when combined with the other 2 fundamentals, it ties everything together. The mistake that many players make when approaching their jungle is kind of treating it like it's 6 individual camps, each with their own health bar that you're trying to burn down as quickly as possible. But quit that thinking, it's completely wrong. Instead, try to imagine your entire jungle as one giant camp with 1 health bar. To DPS it down as quickly as possible, you're going to need to always be thinking about your next camp and how to make everything flow together. And to show you what I mean by this, let's look at Zot clearing his wolves in the Jarvan game. Mistake number 1, as we know from earlier, is that he's not leashing the camp as far out as he should be. Then, to quickly finish it off, he uses his E. This is a clear sign that he's not thinking about his next camp, because now he can't use his EQ to go over the wall and do his raptors. And Hector pointed out that exact mistake and the potential cost of it in their VOD review.
No, I wasted my E for, like, my E was terrible there, right?
Yep. Now you're thinking about a gank. What's interesting here is I'll tell junglers this all the time. Like, a lot of junglers, when you're told to power farm, if in some games you feel like you have no agency, or like it just feels like you're not doing anything. This is an example of where, like, if you were good, these raptors are already dead, and you would be going for the same gank and you'd be level 7.
Yeah.
Like, literally, you could have just AFK farmed and you'd be doing the exact same thing, but you'd be up a camp and you'd be up a level, and this gank's more likely to work. But instead, you're down a camp, and, you know, maybe you don't get the kill because of that. Maybe if you had more base levels, you could auto attack, like flash auto smite him, you know? But because you don't, you miss this kill. And you actually tried to gank. Like, the AFK power farming good player would have got that gank and far more than you.
Now, obviously, as this included mobility, it was a pretty extreme example, and I get that, but this whole concept literally applies to any ability. The basic premise is that you want to avoid overkilling camps, and if this means holding an ability for the next one to maximize your overall damage, or to leash it towards you in order to save time moving between camps, it's always going to be worth doing so. Or even just something as simple as delaying an AoE spell like your E on Lee Sin, or your Q on Viego to finish off the small krugs when they pop. It's all just about constantly thinking ahead to maximize your overall clear speed. But while each and every one of these fundamentals can save you a few seconds on their own, the true benefits come from when they're all combined, as by paying attention to the damage numbers, taking advantage of maximum leash ranges, and min-maxing your abilities, especially from AoE spells, you can begin to make simple decisions like these where you leash camps into others in order to maximize the damage from your abilities, exactly as Hector demonstrated in their lesson.
So let's do this. I know that what I just did here is once my E had about 4 seconds left on its cooldown, I walked out because I knew the wolf would follow me and my E would be up in time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, that was cool. Yeah, I
Yeah.
never feel bad enough.
So here. Okay, I can leave now. And I can probably finish this with like E smite or something. And that wasn't efficient, but you kind of get the point.
Now, although I definitely suggest using Practice Tool to get a few reps in, just to make sure you don't end up like poor Zot did here in this Diana game, but while all of these tips are something you should aim to maximize on every single clear you do throughout the game, you should be able to see the results immediately when applying these fundamentals to your first full clear. Take Viego for example. When Zot first picked him up, he would end his full clear around the 3-minute 30 mark, which is about on par with most low elo junglers. This would result in him getting to scuttle just as it spawns, giving him no time to do anything else, and in some cases even causing him to lose the crab. But right after this lesson, just by trying to apply these fundamentals, even if not done perfectly, he was able to shave off 10 whole seconds in his very next game. And the results, they were immediate. Rather than finishing up his final camp at 3:30 this time, he was already in the top lane setting up a gank and securing first blood while the enemy jungler was still stuck clearing Krugs, which then just snowballed straight out of control, resulting in a kill on the enemy jungler, a double scuttle for Zot, and a massive lead for him and his team. All on the back of just shaving a few seconds off that one single clear, let alone considering the long-term benefits over the course of the entire game. And this is the reason why we made sure to enlist the help of Shapeshift, who's a player that holds the world record for many of the fastest first clears in the game, to put together a jungle clear course exclusively for our Diamond in 90 Days challenge. For instance, watching our brand new Viego clear, if perfected, would result in you finishing a red to blue full clear at 3 minutes and 9 seconds. And just to put that into perspective, Zot in his first clears on the same champion with the exact same runes hadn't even finished his second buff by then and was 21 seconds slower in total. Not only is being this fast a complete cheat code for the early game, but by just mastering your first clear, you'll also be able to pick up on all the champion-specific intricacies you need to min-max every clear thereafter, ranging from simple things like pulling camps together to maximize the damage from your Q on Viego to small but advanced concepts like smiting late to maximize your current health damage. Then for other champions, things like positioning your Q to hit 2 camps on Diana so that you can go over the wall while simultaneously finishing off the camp, and plenty more tips just like these. And these full clears are something we have for every meta jungler, fully updated and complete with helpful subtitles enabling you to follow along and practice every step of the way while learning all the tips and tricks even challenger players don't even know about. And practicing these and improving his clear speed is exactly what Zot will be focusing on for the rest of his first week of climbing in the jungle. As who knew? Even if your Lee Sin mechanics look like this, and your decision making is, well, let's just say, questionable at best. Here's the kicker. It doesn't matter. Not yet, at least. As by just improving his clear and sticking to these basics, Zot is already miles ahead of every other low elo jungler. And he has more time, more options, and most of all, more impact, while still getting all of the benefits of power farming, helping to overcome the biggest issue almost every jungler deals with. But next week's episode is where things really start to heat up as Coach Hector dives into one of the most requested topics, ganking. Zot enters his topside quadrant and starts on Raptors, meaning following our rules, he would want to do Krugs right after and be done with this quadrant before thinking about anything else. But Zot sees the pings and a juicy looking Aatrox top, can't help but go for the gank here. Caution, what you're about to witness may be harmful to your eyes. Viewer discretion gonna be advised here.
Oh no.
But even worse than that play was the fact that the gank comes at an even higher cost. If Zot had just cleared Krugs, then done whatever that was, he could open bot, grab his bot quadrant, and pretend like nothing ever happened. But instead, his Krugs are now just going to end up sitting up there alive and not cycling. And the best part, if you're a subscriber, you don't have to wait. You can already get complete early access to that full episode, along with the in-depth lessons, VOD reviews, and earpieces. There has never been a better opportunity to start your own climb, as everything Zot learns to get him to Diamond, you can follow along with step by step. And more importantly, see exactly how he applies what he's learning in real games, the mistakes he makes, and the problems he encounters. Check out the link in the description below to gain a special Diamond in 90 Days discount code and begin your journey today. All right, and that will do it for this one, guys. We here at skillcapped, we want to thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next episode.